More than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
Development cooperation has always been a priority for the OAS. The OAS SETI works with all member states to identify common challenges and define solutions through policy dialogue, which is transformed into action through technical cooperation initiatives. Policy dialogue is central to our work in development. The OAS SETI convenes development leaders in 11 ministerial meetings and high-level processes on priority areas such as competitiveness, labor, education, among others. Technical cooperation initiatives emerge from ongoing dialogue and are therefore established with built-in political support. All of our actions place people at the center, generating a multiplier effect in the region. We enhance human capacity by working with key stakeholders. This strengthens institutions, improving policies and programs, benefiting millions of people in the Americas. Our ability to deliver results relies on broad collaboration. Partnerships for Development, Cooperación Solidaria, is a unique OAS concept which recognizes that each member state, regardless of its size, wealth, or level of development, has value to share and can learn from others. This concept also includes close collaboration with other partners, amplifying our reach and impact. As we mark 70 years of work on development, we take a look back. This long evolution, driven by member states, has fine-tuned our unique model to support inter-American development. Today, all of our efforts fall into 5 strategic priorities: inclusive and competitive economies, sustainable development, education and human development, decent work for all, development cooperation and partnerships. These are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and the regional attainment of the 2030 Agenda. These priorities are also areas where the OAS study has extensive experience and proven impact. We have come a long way. But still have much work to do. "70 years ago, an inter-American dream and promise was enshrined in the OAS Charter. We can deliver on this promise. Our future leaders are counting on us."
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Por un lado, trabajamos la cultura de paz, con actividades culturales, con actividades artísticas, como se puede ver, con música, como está sonando, pero también por nuestra propia presencia, porque somos básicamente una organización que trabaja el concepto de paz de manera activa, y acá se puede ver de forma tangible.
Nosotros estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
De ahí vino él, se buscó creo con los de la OEA y de ahí vino el proyecto para acá, para Judá. Y fue que lo dieron el terreno, y lo dieron todo que era mano de obra y el material para hacer las casas que están ahorita. Y por ese motivo estamos aquí viviendo todavía.
La misión continúa trabajando en la implementación de medidas de fomento de la confianza mientras aguarda el resultado del reclamo que está atendiendo la Corte Internacional de Justicia por la disputa marítima, territorial e insular. Nuestra oficina en la zona de adyacencia realiza verificaciones a solicitud de ambos gobiernos, facilita reuniones y patrullajes conjuntos entre las Fuerzas Armadas y promueve una cultura de paz y cooperación entre las comunidades locales.
Children will be children. And they have harmony. They don't see each other as a different country, but they see each other that they're growing together.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
Development cooperation has always been a priority for the OAS. The OAS SETI works with all member states to identify common challenges and define solutions through policy dialogue, which is transformed into action through technical cooperation initiatives. Policy dialogue is central to our work in development. The OAS SETI convenes development leaders in 11 ministerial meetings and high-level processes on priority areas such as competitiveness, labor, education, among others. Technical cooperation initiatives emerge from ongoing dialogue and are therefore established with built-in political support. All of our actions place people at the center, generating a multiplier effect in the region. We enhance human capacity by working with key stakeholders. This strengthens institutions, improving policies and programs, benefiting millions of people in the Americas. Our ability to deliver results relies on broad collaboration. Partnerships for Development, Cooperación Solidaria, is a unique OAS concept which recognizes that each member state, regardless of its size, wealth, or level of development, has value to share and can learn from others. This concept also includes close collaboration with other partners, amplifying our reach and impact. As we mark 70 years of work on development, we take a look back. This long evolution, driven by member states, has fine-tuned our unique model to support inter-American development. Today, all of our efforts fall into 5 strategic priorities: inclusive and competitive economies, sustainable development, education and human development, decent work for all, development cooperation and partnerships. These are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and the regional attainment of the 2030 Agenda. These priorities are also areas where the OAS study has extensive experience and proven impact. We have come a long way. But still have much work to do. "70 years ago, an inter-American dream and promise was enshrined in the OAS Charter. We can deliver on this promise. Our future leaders are counting on us."
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Por un lado, trabajamos la cultura de paz, con actividades culturales, con actividades artísticas, como se puede ver, con música como está sonando, pero también por nuestra propia presencia, porque somos básicamente una organización que trabaja el concepto de paz de manera activa, y acá se puede ver de forma tangible.
Nosotros estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
De ahí vino él, se buscó creo con los de la OEA y de ahí vino el proyecto para acá, para Judá. Y fue que le dieron el terreno, y le dieron todo que era mano de obra y el material para hacer las casas que están ahorita. Y por ese motivo estamos aquí viviendo todavía.
La misión continúa trabajando en la implementación de medidas de fomento de la confianza mientras aguarda el resultado del reclamo que está atendiendo la Corte Internacional de Justicia por la disputa marítima, territorial e insular. Nuestra oficina en la zona de adyacencia realiza verificaciones a solicitud de ambos gobiernos, facilita reuniones y patrullajes conjuntos entre las Fuerzas Armadas y promueve una cultura de paz y cooperación entre las comunidades locales.
Children will be children. And they have harmony. They don't see each other as a different country, but they see each other that they're growing together.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
Development cooperation has always been a priority for the OAS. The OAS SETI works with all member states to identify common challenges and define solutions through policy dialogue, which is transformed into action through technical cooperation initiatives. Policy dialogue is central to our work in development. The OAS SETI convenes development leaders in 11 ministerial meetings and high-level processes on priority areas such as competitiveness, labor, education, among others. Technical cooperation initiatives emerge from ongoing dialogue and are therefore established with built-in political support. All of our actions place people at the center, generating a multiplier effect in the region. We enhance human capacity by working with key stakeholders. This strengthens institutions, improving policies and programs, benefiting millions of people in the Americas. Our ability to deliver results relies on broad collaboration. Partnerships for Development, Cooperación Solidaria, is a unique OAS concept which recognizes that each member state, regardless of its size, wealth, or level of development, has value to share and can learn from others. This concept also includes close collaboration with other partners, amplifying our reach and impact. As we mark 70 years of work on development, we take a look back. This long evolution, driven by member states, has fine-tuned our unique model to support inter-American development. Today, all of our efforts fall into 5 strategic priorities: inclusive and competitive economies, sustainable development, education and human development, decent work for all, development cooperation and partnerships. These are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and the regional attainment of the 2030 Agenda. These priorities are also areas where the OAS study has extensive experience and proven impact. We have come a long way. But still have much work to do. "70 years ago, an inter-American dream and promise was enshrined in the OAS Charter. We can deliver on this promise. Our future leaders are counting on us."
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Por un lado, trabajamos la cultura de paz, con actividades culturales, con actividades artísticas, como se puede ver, con música, como está sonando, pero también por nuestra propia presencia, porque somos básicamente una organización que trabaja el concepto de paz de manera activa, y acá se puede ver de forma tangible.
estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
Thank you, SG. Good morning, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, distinguished colleagues. I'm pleased to call to order this regular meeting of the Permanent Council. As this is my first regular session as Chair of the Permanent Council, I'd like to ask the distinguished delegations for their support so that we can be as effective and as efficient as possible in the development of our activities, particularly in terms of the completion of the preparations of the General Assembly in the framework of the COVID-19 pandemic. Before considering the order of business of today's meeting, I wish to inform this Permanent Council that I have given precise instructions so that the gravel be sent on your behalf to our esteemed colleague, Ambassador Luis Fernando Cordero, Permanent Representative of Honduras and outgoing Chairman of the Permanent Council. Ambassador Cordero, please receive said gravel as a symbol of our appreciation and gratitude for your outstanding performance as Chair of the Permanent Council. Ambassador Cordero chaired the Council during the past quarter. I would like to acknowledge your outstanding leadership of our work during that period. Ambassador Cordero, thank you very much for your effort and dedication to the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States. We'll now turn to the agenda and item 1. In accordance with Article 43 of the Rules of Procedure of the Permanent Council, we will proceed to adopt the order of business for this meeting, document CP-OD-2302/20. I note there's a request for the floor. No. I guess that's how it is with technology. There be no request for the floor, no further observations. The order of business is hereby approved. Approved. The first item in the order of business refers to the preliminary annual report by the Office of the Ombudsperson. I offer a warm welcome to the Ombudsperson of the Organization of the American States, Ms. Nada Perez. Ms. Perez, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, distinguished representatives, alternates, Secretary General Almagro. Good morning, Assistant Secretary Mendez, colleagues, interpreters, and guests. I'm pleased to be here today, and thank you very much, all of you, for your time. I appreciate the interest and the support to the Office of the Ombudsperson. My apologies for the presentation of the report at this late time, It has been quite a year for all of us, and it, of course, has been quite a year for the Ombuds Office. And I apologize for the lateness of the presentation of the report. I will present the report, and then at the end of the report, I will be absolutely happy to receive any questions that you may have, any clarifications, that you may have. As you know, the Office of the Ombuds is directly subordinated to the political organs, and the representatives can, at any point in time, request additional information for clarity on specific matters that relate to the activities of the office. And I will be, of course, happy to help you on any clarity that is needed. Next. For the benefit of the delegations who are not familiar with the Office of the Ombudsperson and how it works, the Office of the Ombudsperson is one of the oversight bodies. There are 4 oversight bodies at the organization. One is the External Board of Auditors. The other one is the Administrative Tribunal. The other one is the Inspector General's Office. And the 4th one is the Office of the Ombudsperson. So these are the 4 oversight bodies. They are subordinated only to the political organs. And therefore, at any point in time, you can, of course, contact us. The 2 formal channels, the Administrative Tribunal and the Office of the Inspector General, have matters related to conflict resolution. Those are the formal channels. The informal channel, the only informal channel, is the Office of the Ombudsperson. This is the only one mechanism outside the formal channels where individuals can talk to and come to any issues related to workplace environment, and everything is absolutely confidential, it's off the record. And what the office does is not only handling cases for workplace environment, but also checking when there are trends or systemic issues, which we will talk later in the next slide or the next slides. Next. Also, it is not a prerequisite to use the Office of the Ombudsperson before an individual can go to the formal channels. At any point, they can go to the formal channels without going to the Office of the Ombudsperson. The Office of the Ombudsperson was created in 2015. It's again the only off-the-record mechanism, and the Ombudsperson is a neutral and independent conflict resolution professional to assist everyone in the organization, including not only staff members, but also consultants and interns, associates, and fellows. Everyone who has any issue at the organization or any question related to a policy or the application of a policy or anything, including harassment and including sexual harassment, they can go to the office and they can find some resources and find help in the office. Next. The office adheres to the International Ombudsman Association for the standards of practice, and there are 4 principles. The principle of independence, neutrality, confidentiality, and informality. Independence basically means that the office is independent from the regular structure of the organization. And again, in the case of the OAS, the office is an oversight body that reports in activities to the political organs. That's why this report is submitted to the General Assembly through the Secretary General and now distributed to you through the Permanent Council. The neutrality of the ombuds. As an ombuds, the ombudsperson in the ombuds office does not take sides, but advocates for fairness and for the equity in application of policies. And that is very important to remember, I think, and also when there is something that comes up, the office has the obligation to do something about it because of the mandate, and I am going to refer to the mandate in a minute. Confidentiality. Everything that is that comes to the office is strictly confidential. The confidentiality belongs to the office, and no one can waive this privilege. So when someone comes to the office, everything that is said is absolutely off the record, and not even the Inspector General can ask me for information related to the individuals who come to the office to report situations. That is very important, because it is the only assurance that individuals have to be able to feel comfortable coming to the office to bring issues that they don't feel comfortable bringing to their supervisors or to HR or to any other resources in the organization. Because of that, because of the confidentiality, is that these kind of offices work well, because they can guarantee these individuals who otherwise would not speak about situations, about things that they see or the things that are happening in the organization. That's the only space they have to be able to bring this information and in total confidentiality. As an ombuds, I have the obligation to protect the anonymity of these individuals and also the confidential information that they have shared with the office. So when I share information about the findings, I always share information that relates to the possibility of understanding what main areas have been found as having issues, so that there is some information to be able to work with from that area, specific area that is having an issue, or from HR if it is a policy, or legal if it is a policy. But the information is given in a general manner, so that the decision makers can relate to the information, but not identify those individuals who have addressed or come to the office to bring the information. It is very, very important, and this is perhaps the most important principle, is confidentiality, and we ombuds take this very seriously. The final principle is informality, which means basically that it is off the record. Every conversation is off the record, and that it is the only, outside of the formal channels, is the only mechanism. Next, please. Regarding the cases, before I go to the cases, I want to make sure that I read the mandate of the office as it was stated by the Permanent Council in September 2015. The Permanent Council created this office in 2015 and created an oversight body. And I'm going to read the text exactly as it is in this document. The organization should provide OAS staff with an institutional mechanism that guarantees and promotes their rights and discreetly processes complaints about possible violations of those rights. Hence, the establishment of the Office of the Ombudsperson, which will be responsible for ensuring observance of the rights of the organization's human resources. Said office will operate autonomously and report to the Permanent Council on its activities. So I think this is the mandate. Last year, the General Assembly approved the subchapter in the General Standards, approved the subchapter for the Office of the Ombudsperson, and now we have that legal framework as well. Now, going to cases. This is a summary of what the Office of the Ombudsperson has done since its inception in 2015. So in 2015, there was the first ombuds who opened the Office of the Ombudsperson, Ombuds Trust, and she issued the first report at that time in 2016. So for that year, there were 80 users. And those 80 users brought to the office 155 issues. The reason why there is a difference between users and issues is because one single user could bring many issues. And also because with the time, if there is a period of time in which the case is open, the same single user could start having more issues related to the workplace environment and bringing those new issues to the office as the case is open. That's why it is very important to be able to be diligent and to be able to address issues efficiently. That way we can target the roots of the problem and hopefully not have this escalation of things. In 2017, there were 68 users. We don't have specific information about the issues. In 2018, there were 78 users and 255 issues. And for 2019, there were 132 users coming to the Office of the Ombudsperson, and there were 2,673 issues. And I know that you're going to say, why so many issues? The reason why there's so many issues is because we had a complicated year last year. So we found 4 systemic issues in the organization, and those 4 systemic issues included groups of people. Okay, so because there are groups of people and because the cases remain open for a long period of time, then more issues come in and are reported. Also, we had a couple of critical areas with issues where separately, where we had people affected by a circumstance, and those were critical areas as well. And regarding that, we unfortunately don't have 2 directors that the organization lost at the end of a year. But those areas were having the employees in those areas were of course impacted by disability and things like that, and that's why the issues magnified. Next. This is a summary of the most frequent problems or situations that have come to the attention of the office during 2016 to 2019. So there is a standard category of issues that all ombuds or most ombuds report on, and those are 9. The standard has 9 categories, and it is a standard by the International Ombudsman Association, and so we follow the practices and we follow the categories. That's how we report technically. So out of those 9, these are the ones that for the OAS, these are the 9 that have been repeatedly coming through the Ombuds office, and that are important for us to know, important for the organization to know, because we want to make sure that we have a healthy organization and transparent organization, and that we try to be productive, and so we need to tackle these issues. But you can see it, most of the issues have to do with evaluative relationships, which means superior in or superior and subordinate, although we really don't want to use the word subordinate. The other one is organizational and strategic mission related. And that is about policies, about application of policies, and that is normal during this crisis because of the pandemic, but also it shows that we, as an organization, we need to do better in terms of clarity and strategy, and being in sync within the different areas. Career progression, of course, is an area that is impacted at the organization and will be impacted particularly because of the lack the lack of resources that we have. That is definitely something that affects personnel and their careers. Services and administration issues, same is there is a need for more personnel to be able to be proactive, to be able to be to have the productivity that one would expect, and because of the lack of resources, of course, that is affected. Then legal, regulatory, financial, and compliance also has to do with policies, the lack of clarity on policies, and sometimes the different implementation of a single policy in different areas, so that there is no equity in the implementation of a policy accordingly to entire organization. That is one issue. Then peer to colleague, and that is normal in every organization. Next, please. The services that the office offered, the office can offer many services. The issue that I have had as the ombuds for the last 2 years is that there is no capacity to offer all these services. I have been offering services as much as possible, and I think that there has been a lot of progress. But I am only one person. I don't have a team of staff supporting the office permanently. I only work with now with one consultant that I was finally able to get a couple of months ago, and with interns. And they are great, and I really appreciate their effort and support, because without them it would be impossible. But they are temporary, and so the office really needs a team, at least one more person permanently supporting the office, a technical person who can help with the analysis of things, and it is really important, training. So there are many services, as you can see. The ones that that people have come to my office the most are when they don't know if a policy is affecting them, when they don't know if there is harassment. Sometimes they're not sure if something that has happened or is happening is considered harassment, and also to get empowered to have the difficult conversations with their peers or supervisors about topics like harassment. The other important service is just meeting to people. People don't have at the organization. The staff personnel. They don't have other alternatives as they do in other organizations similar to the OAS, such as the World Bank or the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Nations. At these organizations, personnel have other services. They have the mediation office. They have counseling offices. They have ethics office. And at the OAS, we do not have that. And so because of that, many people come with situations that are not specifically related or that would otherwise go to other services. But because we don't have those services, then they come to the office of the ombudsperson because there is no other alternative. Then we have people who are afraid because, of course, like during times like this, with budgetary concerns, they are afraid for their post, and they come to the office because they're of course afraid. And then there is also a facilitation that the office performs, observations, analysis of trends and systemic issues, and recommendations to everyone. Recommendations are given both to the areas when the issue first comes to light, and then when it escalates and there is no change, there is nothing that is done to either resolve or mitigate the situation, then the office, the ombuds, escalates the case to be able to do something, and brings kind of the yellow flag or the red flag to the next person in capacity to decision to decide, in including the Secretary General. Next, please. The office, as I mentioned, was created in 2015, and my predecessors and I have been asking to get this office structured according to the standards. It is very important for the credibility of the office, for the role that the office does, and the importance of what is needed for this organization, again, because there are no other services like this. So there are standards that other offices or ombuds offices have, and that ombuds offices in general must have to be able to have the independence, both in the structure but also in the way in which the office functions. So in the report last year, in the report in 2019, January 2019, when I got to the office, I made an assessment to see how the office was in terms of the needs to be close to those requirements. And we have had some progress. We did have the legal framework passed by the General Assembly, which is a great acknowledgement that I want to give, because it had been 4 years without having a legal framework, and now we do have it. So thank you very much. I know that some delegations worked really hard on this, and I really, on behalf of the Office of the Ombudsperson, want to thank you for that. But there are also things that we need to continue working on that have been mentioned and that were mentioned in the past reports, and we're still pending on achieving those. So the independent allocation of a minimum annual budget required for its operation. And again, it doesn't matter what the budget is. It's not about the money in quantity. And I think that all of the oversight bodies, we acknowledge the circumstances that we are going through. And it is not that. It is the independent in the allocation. It is the need for these offices to have that budget allocation prior and to the discussion internally, because of the structure and because of the way that these offices operate. And so that's there is a request from the General Assembly that is pending to be discussed in one of the working groups, and we're working with staff. But I think that is important for delegations to have that also in perspective. The next part is the structural operation and independence in the budget. This refers to the internal operations and how the office and these offices need to function without any possible interference from the internal structure. And that is also very important, because we need to be independent in order to be able to function and for the work that we do, for the protection of confidentiality. We cannot disclose information during or prior to handling a case. As an example, I could not perhaps say, or the general of the inspector, we need to do this because we are handling a case related to this area. It is off the record. We cannot provide that information, and I think that we have to internally make some changes in some of the policies and some of the operations to be able to assure that these offices are truly independent and autonomous in our functioning. And that is the third point, which is the legal framework also. And the fourth point is the respect for the office and its processes. I understand that this office is new at the organization, but at the same time, I have been trying to inform on how these offices and this office particularly work. And I think that it is very important to respect the work that it does. It really adds to the transparency and accountability and credibility, not only of the office, but the organization itself. Next, please. In terms of gender, location, and contract type of the individuals who came to the office in 2019, most were women, but we had more male coming, which is good news, because they're feeling comfortable coming to bring the issues. Location, we have to improve this. We need to get to the missions and to national offices, so that they can trust the office, they can trust the structure and be able to communicate. One challenge, of course, is not being in person, and of course, when there are sensitive issues, people don't necessarily want to communicate those over the phone or over the internet. And so that is a challenge, and now with COVID, of course, is a bigger challenge, but it's something that we have to acknowledge to be able to go to the root of the problems and to be able to define some paths of action. And the type of contract, most people who came to the office in 2019 were in the mid ranges, so P1s to non-managerial. So those are the blue portion of the chart, 60%. And but they came from all different contracts and from all different grades within the organization, which is good. Next. So we have made good progress, I think. In the summary report here, this is the categories that I mentioned. This is a standardized list of categories by the International Ombudsman Association. And this is basically a summary of the whole list of people who came to the office without names, of course. Everything is just percentage. But it shows how evaluative relationships is the biggest issue that we have. So that is supervisor, supervisee. And so there are many issues in that regard. And the organization needs to do something to improve this area. And I have been working in giving recommendations both to the Secretary General and to the different areas that had something to do with this with this particular issue, HR and organizational development particularly. The second biggest is organizational, strategic, and mission related. So again, these are things that I have been mentioning to the areas and that I will continue talking to the different areas and to the Office of Secretary General to see how we can improve this. Next. And these are the subcategories. I will send this presentation as well so that the member states can have information about this. This is for you to know how healthy the organization is or not, and what areas are areas of concern. So I think it's important for transparency. So I will send it to you after the meeting. It's basically a breakdown of the prior slide. Next. Next. During 2019, the office conducted the first comprehensive survey. So there had not been a survey like this before. This survey was an integral survey. It included different areas which had to do with personnel. So staff association, there were questions related to services that other areas can provide, because the office needed to have an understanding on how people were feeling about what they have in place. So there were questions about staff association, there were questions about services from HR, there were questions about the Office of the Inspector General, and there were questions about the Office of the Ombudsperson to try to identify how people feel, how these resources are being used, and if there was a need to adjust or improve in those areas, and how. And prior to that, I met with the different officers or representatives from the staff association, and we had that survey. 287 people participated in the survey, and it is great because it's the first comprehensive survey that we're going to be able to use as a baseline from here on to be able to build on it and to improve. So I think this is very, very important, and I want to share that with you. There was one question about the information that the missions have about the constraints of personnel, and so personnel gave their opinion about it, and is also included here. Next. So the value added for this office to the organization. Basically, the Office of the Ombudsman collaborates with the different stakeholders, and it helps managing workplace concerns. It also helps prevent escalation of conflict when there is genuine interest from the parties to be able to talk or to be able to cooperate in understanding the issues, so that if they understand it, then they can address them. So the office has a lot of values, and really what I see as a challenge is that because the office is new, there is no clear understanding on how the office works. And so I think that that is something that in the next few months I'm going to be working on, trying to explain that it is not, it is basically a tool. It is a tool to be able to help. So these are basically the different benefits that the office has. So also, I think that one important benefit that I want to mention is that when there is an issue and when it escalates, it can go to the tribunal. It can have very huge impact for the organization, not only reputational impact, which is huge, but also financial impact. And if things are considered, if things are handled prior to escalation, then the organization could save a lot in productivity and in cost. Next. So the recommendations for actions are basically very similar to what recommendations were last year, and are regarding they are related to the legal framework that needs to be adjusted to reflect the mandate of the policy of the office. So there is a need to do some internal editing to be able to do that. And then the budget and human resources allocation to the office, at least one person permanent position to the office, so that there is some support to handle cases. And also management actions from management. I think that is also very important. Is important for management and for everyone in the organization to understand that if there is no action taken, that if the office keeps knocking on the door and there is no action to mitigate or to resolve, then the issue is going to continue to be there, and it's going to continue affecting more individuals. Next, please. This is basically the presentation, the presentation of the cases. I do want to remind delegations that if at any point you have any question about or you need clarity, you can contact my office and I will be happy to provide information that I can, always protecting the confidentiality and the anonymity of the users who have come to my office. But at the same time, it is my obligation to provide information to the political organs. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, delegations. And if there is any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Perez, for your report. I now offer the floor to delegations who may wish to comment on this report. Canada, the delegation of Canada is recognized. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Perez, for your presentation and for your excellent work over the last year. Canada sees your office as pivotal to the effective management and resolution of workplace issues and conflicts at the OAS. We fully support its contributions to the oversight and accountability we expect from this organization, and which is so critically important to a healthy, safe, and professional working environment for everyone. The independence and autonomy of the Ombudsperson's office are of paramount importance to its success. It is for this reason, and in keeping with best practices, that Canada wishes to express its support for your call for consideration of an independent budget. We look forward to continuing discussions within the Committee of Administrative and Budgetary Affairs on the establishment of an audit committee to facilitate this independence. We also support the suggestion of an exemption for your office from the 2.5% transfer rule that was instituted in last year's budget as a transparency measure, as we know that this affects independence and confidentiality matters. The work of the Ombudsperson sometimes means identifying informal solutions that requires you to move staff temporarily. And it makes sense for your office to enjoy some flexibility to implement these solutions without transiting this involving the Secretariat. We call on others to join us in supporting the Ombudsperson and giving the office the tools that are required to continue to carry out this very, very important work. Thank you.
We thank the delegation of Canada and now recognize the delegation of the United States.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The United States would also like to express our appreciation for the Ombudsman for her report, which was excellent, and express our appreciation and support for the Office of the Ombudsman. Bodies such as the Office of the Ombudsman are a critical component for ensuring accountability, ethics, and transparency within international organizations. While the Permanent Council often turns its attention to these issues throughout the region, we must equally ensure that they prevail in the OAS itself. We are pleased that the OAS took the steps in 2015 to establish this office, thereby providing a dedicated forum for helping the management and resolution of work-related concerns and conflicts. We're also very pleased with the development of the office, reflected by the number of people who brought cases reflecting their confidence in the Ombudsperson and her office. The United States will continue to advocate for respect and independence of the Office of the Ombudsperson and other oversight and supervisory bodies of the OAS. Thank you very much.
We thank the delegation of the United States and now recognize the delegation of Brazil.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Brazil takes note of the presentation delivered by the Ombudsperson. Brazil would also like to say that Brazil wholly supports this body, which is a new body at the OAS. We also agree that this office, as well as all other oversight bodies, should have budgetary autonomy. And this way there would be no risk for conflicts of interest. A well-functioning and well-structured Office of the Ombudsperson is one factor that could increase the productivity of this organization, especially by promoting the morale and well-being of all of our staff at the organization. We also wanted to commend Ms. Neda Perez on the excellent work that she has done leading this office. We would also like to avail ourselves of this opportunity to make a suggestion. We would appreciate it if a written report could be submitted and circulated to delegations before future permanent council meetings where Ms. Perez will speak. That would be an excellent way for us to be able to provide more detailed feedback on the office's activities, and we could also make more relevant recommendations on the needs of this office. I also wanted to reiterate that member states must ensure that this office has adequate conditions to perform its functions. Now, as was said in the presentation, the progress made by this office since it was founded is relevant. However, much is left to do to fully strengthen the capacity of this organization so that it can operate properly given current budgetary constraints. Brazil is willing to contribute to the process of strengthening this office. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank the delegation of Brazil, and I would suggest that the Permanent Council take note of the preliminary annual report by the Office of the Ombudsperson and thank Ms. Neda Perez for her presentation. Thank you again, Ms. Perez. If there are no objections,
Ambassador, we have Mexico requesting the floor.
we now recognize that Mexico has requested the floor. Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation would like to take advantage of this opportunity to express its full support for your work as Chair of the Permanent Council of the OAS. We wish you the utmost success leading this committee. Mexico represents the important functions carried out by OAS oversight bodies and how that is key to the organization. For that reason, in order to provide a more proper analysis of this and other activities, we should have sufficient notice of the reports that will be submitted to this organization, and states should have access to them so that they can make the proper comments. And in this case, that would apply to the 2019 report on the Office of the Ombudsperson. It would need to be circulated beforehand to make serious comments. We also did not receive the work plan for the year 2020 as stipulated by Article 70 of the General Standards of the General Secretariat of the organization. Since this organization was created in 2015, and it is an organ that has been strengthened by adopting its objectives as they are established in the general standards, my delegation wishes to reiterate the importance of its work as long as it promotes the rights of personnel and carries out mediation and conflict resolution. The work of this body is informal, and its verification processes and exercises should be carried out with full confidentiality based on Article 68 of the organization's general standards. Also, the ombudsperson should be an independent, neutral, confidential party that can offer assistance to resolve workplace issues and not advocate for any person in particular, instead advocating for specific processes. In that article, it also states that the General Secretariat shall not receive notice of any communications directed to the Office of the Ombudsperson. And in the recent case of the IACHR, this condition was violated. The Ombudsperson can carry out investigations on any particular case and in this particular case with the IACHR, it was able to carry out an investigation and get to the bottom of it. And it was able to attribute responsibilities to a particular person. There were certain issues with this process, and due process must be preserved. We would like to reiterate that if an ombudsperson violates her rights to protect the identity, privacy, and confidentiality of users of this service, shall not act as a witness or participate in any formal proceeding within or outside of the General Secretariat. And in this case, the ombudsperson publicized a proceeding against a particular person. We're wondering if the same treatment will be given to other OAS bodies and if the same process will be followed with other personnel at the OAS, with the ombudsperson violating her role. Madam Ombudsperson, we would appreciate it if you could explain your procedure in this case. The role of the ombudsperson should focus more on conflict resolution and mediation, leaving other issues to the Inspector General. Given that this report has just arrived, Mexico will carefully analyze it to provide its detailed feedback. We would ask the ombudsperson to carry out mediation while preserving due confidentiality and respecting the duties for which she was hired. Thank you, Chair.
Mexico. And will now offer the floor to Ms. Perez for a response.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And yes, I will respond. Thank you very much to the delegation of Canada and to the delegation of the United States and Brazil for their information, their comments about the work of the office and their support to the office of the ombudsperson, which is very important for, as you have very well mentioned, the oversight, the healthy and transparency of the organization, and accountability to the organization is very important. And to the transfer, regarding the transfer, yes, there was a need, and there has been a need for transfers sometimes when there is no other alternative that an employee can be transferred to another area, because that sometimes is the only option to be able to resolve a situation. To the delegation of Brazil and to the delegation of Mexico, yes, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I am very sorry that I have not been able to provide with these documents before. As you all delegations know, I have no team, I have no support. And this has been during the pandemic, I mean, even before, it has been very tough, as it was for my predecessors, to be alone in this office, to be able to provide all the work and services, as well as the regular administrative operational things that need to be done. And I have no support, and I, of course, have to see cases and analyze cases, and also do these other things. And it has been a pandemic, so that really took a lot of efforts. And unfortunately, I was working on the report until late night to be able to send it to you all. So unfortunately, yes, I acknowledge that is not the ideal circumstance to have received the report this time, but and I will make sure that that is corrected. We figure out a way to do that a better job next year. I think that the deadline for the January 31st should also be modified, if that is something that the delegations could take into account, and see if the presentation should be done maybe in March. And of course, we're hoping we're not going to have another pandemic. Now, to respond to the delegation of Mexico, I think that there is a need for clarity, and I understand that, again, this office is new in the organization, but again, the office is not there only for mediations. The responsibility of the office given by this body when the office was created, and I will again read, this is the mandate which created the office, and with this mandate, because this mandate is the umbrella, is under this mandate that any other policy would go, but this is the main mandate of the office. And it reads, again, and again, I think it's very important. It is important because it's different from other organizations, and that is something that I request delegations to take into account. It is different from other organizations. The organization should provide OAS staff with an institutional mechanism that guarantees, it does use the word guarantees, that guarantees and promotes the rights, and discreetly processes complaints about possible violations of those rights. Hence, the establishment of the Office of the Ombudsperson, which will be responsible for ensuring observance of the rights of the organization's human resources. Said office will operate autonomously and report to the Permanent Council on its activities. So that is the obligation of the office. And therefore, when there is a case and when there is a systemic case, particularly, the office cannot simply be quiet or cannot simply say, oh, well, mediation, I tried mediation. In many cases, mediation doesn't work because mediation, the principle of mediation is that parties go to the table voluntarily and with genuine intentions. If there is no genuine intention, if one party doesn't want to sit at the table, it's simply no mediation that can be accomplished. And so ombuds offices they don't only go through mediation. Mediation is only one service in the list of services that I presented in the slide. There are many other services, and mediation is only one, and in rare occasions is the service that people choose to do. And so I will go to the standards of practice. The standards of practice of the International Ombuds Association mentioned several things that I think are very important. And I want to make clarifications about something. The office of the Inspector General does the formal investigation, but the office of the Ombudsperson, the office of the Ombudsperson does informal investigation. There is a need to verify information. One party can come to the office and say something, and if I don't verify that information, that could be not true. It could be information that is misguided. So the ombudsman, they have the obligation to make sure that the information that they are taking into account when they are addressing a case is information that is true. So they have to go through a process of verification of information. That is an informal investigation. It is informal because it's not going to be in a report that in any possible way would inform about the names of individuals. There is no file that is taken into the office and that someone could refer to later on. When the case ends in the office, then information has to be destroyed, because that is the whole reason of the office being an off-the-record office. So it is very important to remember that. The office has not mentioned anything about the individuals outside or including inside. The only ones who have had knowledge about this information, about the different cases, because they need to have access to the information, because it is required for them to be able to make decisions, to have the proper information, is the Secretary General and the areas that relate to the specific areas, situation. For instance, if there is a situation in a specific secretariat, then what the ombuds would probably try to do, and it is at the sole discretion of the ombuds in any office, in any organization, is at the sole discretion of the ombuds. What the ombuds would do is the ombuds would try to see how the problem can be resolved within that area, meaning it would go probably to the director of the area if the team is a big team and the individuals cannot be easily identified. If not, then it will go to the executive secretary to say, hey, there is an issue and my recommendations are this, that, and that. They don't have to take the recommendations, but based on the mandate, they should do something to fix the issue. Even if it is a different, even if it is not the specific recommendation that the ombuds have said or have given, they should responsibly do something to resolve the issue or to mitigate the issue or to prevent more issues to happen. And so the decision maker authority must have some information to be able to act. And that's why the confidentiality remains to this office and not to anyone else. So when the information is provided to the decision maker, the findings need to be provided. I need to say, so-and-so had an issue in sexual harassment. Because if I cannot say that there is an issue of sexual harassment that someone with a name did, then no action can be taken. And then this simply would not work. There couldn't be then accountability and transparency. So I think that it's important to mention and to clarify that the anonymity and the protection of the information is always there. But when there is an issue like that, then the decision maker, that one person, needs to know the findings so that decisions can be made. The decisions are not decisions of the Office of the Ombudsperson. The Office of the Ombudsperson can only recommend. The decisions are decisions made by decision makers, whether it is that director, whether it is that executive secretary, whether it is the Secretary General or the Assistant Secretary General or the Chief of Staff. The person who is at that point in the capacity to make a decision needs to make a decision, hopefully, to fix the problem or to prevent more issues from happening, and they need to know the information. So that is absolutely what they cannot know, and what I will never provide is the names of the individuals who come to my office.
Thank you.
Those names are always protected. So I hope this clarifies, but again, I am absolutely happy at any point in time to provide more clarification to the state members, because I know that it is different from how this office works, and I think it's important for all state members to understand, to know, and to have this office as a resource.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I suggest that the Permanent Council take note.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Mexico is asking for the floor again.
We recognize and give the floor to the delegation of Mexico.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Ombudsperson. We appreciate your response. And we do believe that it's important to be clear on this. Do you actually have the authority to conduct informal investigations? That's my main question at this time.
We thank the delegation of Mexico, and we'll give the floor to Ms. Perez for a response, and I'd ask if you could make your response a bit.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the delegation of Mexico for the question. Yes, the Office of the Ombuds has the authority to make informal investigation. It has not authority to make formal investigations, but the office has the authority to make informal investigations, verification of data, and in fact has access to every single information in the organization to be able to do this. Yes, it is part of the possibilities. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. I know there are no other requests for the floor, so I suggest that the Permanent Council take note of the preliminary annual report by the Office of the Ombudsperson, and also of the comments by the delegations to ask for this report to be presented beforehand for the next meeting that we'll review this report. And we also note the constraints of the office, and we'll ask the Secretariat to make special consideration to making the office be able to operate more efficiently. Again, we thank Ms. Neda Perez for her presentation. If there are no objections, it is so agreed. We now move to item 3. The next item in the order of business refers to the consideration and approval of the invitations to civil society organizations, workers, the private sector, and other social actors to the 50th regular session of the General Assembly, for which authorization by the Permanent Council is required. Per document CP/Doc 5630/20 add.1 Rev.1, which includes a report of the General Secretariat and a draft resolution. I ask delegations if we're in a position to approve this draft resolution. Okay. If there are no objections, we may approve the draft resolution. Approved. We'll now move to item 4. We will now proceed to the adoption of the following Permanent Council meeting minutes. 1. CP/ACT.2229 regular meeting of the Permanent Council of May 15th, 2019. Second, CP/ACTA 2230 special meeting of the Permanent Council of May 21st, 2019. 3. CP/ACTA 2231 special meeting of the Permanent Council of May 21st, 2019. 4th, CP/ACTA 2232 regular meeting of the Permanent Council of May 22nd, 2019. 5th, CP/ACTA 2232 regular meeting of the Permanent Council of May 29th, 2019. If there are no comments, we will proceed to its approval. It is approved. Item 5. Distinguished representatives, will now proceed to the next item on the agenda, other business. Through document CP/INF 8758/20, the Secretary General referred to Resolution CP/Res 1121 2209/19, strategic planning of the organization, approved on March 13th, 2019, and requested an extension in the deadline for the delivery of the report of the GS/OAS provided for in the operative paragraphs 5 and 6 until November 6th of this year. In that sense, this report will be presented after that date. The floor is open to representatives who may wish to refer to any other business. I see that there are no requests for the floor. There being no further business to consider, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.